when we got here at Hooke, it took a little while, but we started a wilding project, actually at the beginning of lockdown, and we rewilded our grounds. We basically had diggers and bulldozers and all sorts of things. But the exciting thing is that I realised that it wasn't enough to just do this for us and bring back lovely wildlife and things. We wanted to inspire others, and that's what made me think about doing the Wilding Weekend.
So my name's Alison, and I'm here because I'm interested in rewilding, as I guess everyone is. But what I found was particularly astonishing is I've just been doing 3 months rewilding and nature training down on the River Dart. And to find this on the doorstep, I'm staying in Bedminster with a friend, and to be able to come and meet all these fascinating people and do great tours and see a really inspiring landscape, it's been incredible. Didn't expect that at all for a Saturday afternoon. I'm so pleased. I think Julia's on a wave of interest about rewilding, which I think is a marvellous thing. We've got to have more of it. It's the only way we're going to get biodiversity back into the countryside.
I think what's happened at Hooke Wilding is just absolutely brilliant and shows, first of all, just how amazingly quickly nature can recover in such a short space of time. We've got a very rich, biodiverse environment here. And I think it's also really inspirational for visitors to be able to come and see that, you can create this sort of haven for wildlife on a really small scale. Yes, hello, my name is Leslie Malpass. I'm the founder of Operation Future Hope. We started our organisation back in 2018 as a response to the lack of real up-to-date, relevant, urgent ecological education in schools.
They've developed a marvellous course for children so that they understand the value of nature and how important it is in their lives. And they've got a rewilding school manual, and they're actually helping the schools physically rewild their school grounds, which have become, in many cases, just ecological deserts as they get contractors in to mow and slash all the grass, poison all the things, slash the hedges, and it's completely destructive. And how could we possibly think that we want to bring our children up in this sort of environment which is completely destroyed? We want to bring it back, and in fact they've shown with the schools they've already worked with that they can make it beautiful, glorious, and cut the overheads in terms of maintenance of the school grounds. It's a win-win situation.
We just think, how can we expect young children and young people to take action when their playgrounds are in this state? So we need to rewild our school grounds before we rewild anything else, basically, because it starts at day one.
I mean, when I first came here, this was grazed by sheep. And, it was full of docks and just grass, and there wasn't much else coming up. So now, I mean, the amount of biodiversity here, the amount of insects that have come in since it's all been made, it's just astonishing. So I just think it's amazing, really. I mean, every day I'm here, I see something new that I hadn't seen before. So it's just some farmers, I mean, the way they're destroying the land in a way, when you see the destruction of the soil structure and all the water runs off and you've got mud rolling down the hill. There's, they spray, some farmers spray right up to the edges so they don't leave a margin.
So we've got a bat walk this evening from a chap from the Dorset Wildlife Trust, and he's going to come out with his bat detector, walk around the various habitats, and he'll be able to pick up, because we might not see the bats, certainly initially, but with this bat detector, we'll pick up their echolocations, and each bat's got its own little signature echolocation. Birds was my first interest, and then sort of evolved to butterflies, and then once you start down the butterfly route, get into moths, and last night we ran 4 traps here, and it's a really nice way of bringing people in. It's a really nice engagement tool.
We're sort of stuck in a rut with cultivars in the garden centres, people loving the new forms, even people loving breeding them, new ones, but not realising, but really, for example, we've got the wild Salvia potensis. It's actually quite rare, endangered in the wild, native in this country, but we're growing in our gardens, we're growing hundreds of different forms of non-native salvias, most of them cultivars. So there you go, that's just a case in point. But there's a lot of other species like that. All right.
And there aren't many companies like Be Happy Plants and Seeds who will actually really know about that and understand it. So it just breeds the ignorance for people who are going out, buying something pretty and not really realising that it isn't good for nature at all.
All you really need to think about is growing wild species. So if you think wild species, they have the symbiosis with their pollinators. So all the wildflowers in this country are wild species, and why rewilding is so great, because they're allowing space for wild plants. Whereas if you think about it, gardens don't, cities don't usually. And if the garden centres are only selling cultivars, there's no space for wild plants, and that's what we need. That's what wildlife needs.
Coming from an architecture background, what we've developed are architecture products that can be installed on elevations and home fronts anywhere. We have these holes in the panels that create opportunities for bees to come in and inhabit. The reason why we're focusing on solitary bees is because unlike honeybees, they don't colonize, they don't make honey, but they are super pollinators. They are responsible for 1/3 of the food that we eat. So, and they travel large distances, and that's why they get tired and they eventually die off. So these panels are essential for them.
We're going in some right directions at the moment, but a large proportion of Britain, you walk out into the countryside and there's just nothing there. And you can walk for miles and miles and see 3 types of grasses and a little bit of a hedge. And I think there's a lot of wealthy people now, they want to put something back into the landscape. And if we can actually combine that with being able to make some money at the same time, make it economically viable for large landowners to rewild the land, then it's all to the good. We need to have a network of wilded habitats all over Britain, not just in areas like the uplands, but down here in the lower lands as well.
The Rewilding Estates Company is a nature restoring service provider, and really we go out to landowners, landholders, utilities businesses who have landscapes and go, now you can actually make money out of nature recovery. This is a very exciting time we have in the UK now. Post-Brexit, we can now monetize nature as a viable land use, and that is so exciting. And so what we attempt to do here is to try and get people to picture what the future of their landscape could look like. And we encourage that in these pictures, these paintings that we try and do of 20 years, 30 years, 40 years for people, to give them some idea of what we need to get back to in the British Isles to get our nature recovered and to make money out of that process, because that ultimately is going to change how we get our biodiversity back.
What's missing in the UK and here in West Dorset are those extinct species that enable natural processes to create a healthy environment. So that's one of the big things in rewilding, is to bring back those lost species that can shape the landscape. And very pleased to say that West Dorset Wilding is embarking on a new project to try and link landowners and have public support to create a big area to make this happen.
3 sort of big estates in West Dorset: the Mapperton Estate, the Simmonsby Estate, and I think the Mappercoon Estate. I think I'm right in saying that. They all sort of had an interest in rewilding, and so they sort of got together and they've sort of formed an organisation, and they're trying to get other people with land to join that are interested in rewilding. One of the projects they've sort of kicked off is they're trying to bring beavers back to the Brit, so the whole Brit catchment area. So that's what they're working on at the moment, trying to get the landowners of that area interested, and then go to the government to get some funding to support that.
The Great Big Dorset Hedge is an enhancement and restoration of hedgerows project. There will be the possible creation of new hedgerows, but we're really looking at what have we got, what's in it, how many species, what's the condition, and helping people connect with landowners and see how everybody can work together to help restore our nature.
Understandable why people get worried about food security if they're thinking that everywhere's got to be converted to a nature reserve, but that's not the case at all. It's working with the land to still produce food for everybody, but improving the environment, which benefits wildlife. But in the long term, farming in a way that's going to benefit the soil means we're going to get more production in the future. So it's critical, but it's getting the message across in a way that's not intimidating to people. It's working with people, not telling people what to do.
And what do you think about farming in that?
Yeah, well, obviously we still need to be producing food, and I think regenerative agriculture again is very, very important going forward. Industrialized agriculture is, I think, literally insane. I mean, it has brought us huge gains in productivity, but at such a cost, it's actually self-defeating. I mean, the mainstream agriculture now is destroying soil and destroying pollinators, the two things it needs above all else, right? So we have to move agriculture in a more regenerative direction. We don't actually have an option about that now. If you lose your soil and your pollinators, you can't produce food, right? About the book, it's based on an 8,288-mile ride, mostly solo, the length of South America, largely in the Andes, which is the longest mountain chain in the world. And the focus of it was biodiversity loss and trying to find out more about why it's such an important issue and, above all, what we can do to help. I was cycling for 13 months, and I would say that, the bike ride was inspirational. The people I met, the landscapes and ecosystems I went through, just astonishing ride. Writing the book was way, way harder.
Bertie Clark, I live in South Somerset, and I came to Julia's as a carpenter to help on her various projects and installations she's got around.
And what do you think about wilding?
What do I think about wilding? I think it's brilliant. I think it's a shame it's not more people are doing it, but I think it is certainly the future. And I think in the last few years it's got a big surge, and lots of people are starting to understand it, even if it's through simple processes like no mow May, where they just leave their gardens a little bit longer than they would ordinarily do. Hopefully, in my lifetime, we can see some good improvements.
My name is Jean-René Graille. I'm the technical manager and CSR champion at Clipper in Bemminster, Dorset. Clipper is part of the Ecotone family, and Ecotone is a B Corp certified business that makes food to protect and grow biodiversity.
So organic and fair trade is part of our DNA. It's what we do every single day of the week. All the fair trade premiums go straight back to the estates where it's grown. It doesn't go through third parties, it goes straight back to the estates where the local community decide what they want to spend the money on.
We are very lucky to meet Julia. It was like meant to be thing on our way from Ukraine, and like actually finding our peace in Dorset here. As Julia mentioned, we met through like a renewable energy company, and I was quite interested in saving world, keeping the world from our future generations to come. And my daughter, especially Sophia, she is very interested in butterflies. She likes to spot, chat with people who knows about it, and very, very interested, and make connections and teach other children about the butterflies and the moths and everything that surrounds us.
I'm particularly proud of the wilding that's going on here, because it's one of the environmental actions that are needed. And personally, thanks to my mum, who's been a lifelong environmentalist, I've grown up very passionate about the environment. So I really value the work that's being done here, and it's also that my mum's work throughout my life is what's inspired my journey. And I actually have my own business called Rubbish Ideas, where we help companies to transition towards the circular economy. So it's all about recycling and reuse and reducing carbon and designing products that can be used forever. A journey inspired by the wonderful work done by mum, in a hope to protect the natural world and my future.
Welcome to my home. Lived here 13 years and seen it go on an incredible journey from kind of barren farmland and kind of waste barnlands, and to this wonderful regenerative wilded habitat that my mum's creation. And I think it's been lovely for me personally, but also kind of relates to my work as well. So it's about how we can actually take what's done here and scale it up all over the world using finance and technology instead of the destructive ways that it's being used at the moment, but actually using it to regenerate the earth and scale positive impact all around the globe. So you can imagine this is one small scale example. Can we create a network of these all over the globe? And I think that's going to be crucial if we're to get out of this total mess that we're in.
Well, I live on a farm about 15 minutes up the road, and we manage it through a tenant farmer. We have cattle on it and also take hay and silage off it. And I am firmly believing that hedgerows are an incredibly vibrant source of natural wildlife. To work hand in hand with nature is the best thing. So that's what I'm all about, and that's why I love working with Julia. We're both very passionate people. We both work at 100 miles an hour. We both believe in what we're doing. I adore working for her, and it's a pleasure to be here and create such a brilliant event.
I'm so delighted that everybody's come here together to visit our welding weekend. It's a special, special occasion put on by Julia, who's devoted all her life to, in fact, environmental matters. And now this is almost a culmination of introducing West Dorset and hopefully elsewhere into what should be done with regenerative gardening, with wilding. I'm actually was a petrol head and I have a large collection of motorcycles, so I've never been really that interested until Julia introduced me to wilding, and she has done such a fabulous job and has changed my mind about the importance of wilding, the importance of insects, the importance of biodiversity, which I would never have had before.
OK, well, we're coming to the end of our second wilding weekend, and it's fantastically exciting because it's worked really, really well, and we've had so much enthusiasm. Even the people who are parking the cars have been noting down a lot of excitement for the people coming, and people have been sort of learning things from it, inspired to do things that they hadn't thought of doing, networking with other people, and wherever you go, there's some sort of new idea emerging. I learned a very exciting thing from the bee specialist, and he actually found a solitary bee that is only around for 3 weeks in the year, and the rest of the year it's a grub or something. And he found it mating with the other solitary bee, and the females find little hairs, and then the males come and stalk the females and mate with them. The moths were here in abundance because we had Adam collecting them and getting people to see them, and the children particularly loved that because obviously it's sort of hands-on and they could see all the furry bits and then pretending to be twigs and all types of things like that. But I think the other thing I have to say about the wilding weekend is there have been so many people helping to do it, and so many people behind, me as the front face. And that has just been really amazing. And people have just volunteered to come and participated fully. And there's lots of stalls to man and lots of things to do. And I've just been really, really lucky to have such an enthusiastic and wonderful team behind me. Thank you.